So we got the 381 spoilers, and this chapter is way more exciting than the last two have been, or at least in my opinion. But before we get into it, let me just quickly go over what had happened in the previous chapter. So All For One revealed that in order for him to completely take over Shigaraki's body, he has to have Shigaraki's body absorb the quirk factor that is currently in All For One's body. That's like rewinding away. And as he goes to fly away to UA to get to where Shigaraki is so that, he can take him over, Hawks tries to stop. Hawks gets in his way, and All For One winds up blowing his body apart. But it turns out that it was an illusion casted by Kami. Yes, Kami of Shiketsu High. But not only she is there, Shishikura and Inasa as well, using their quirks, helping everybody out in the battle. And that brings us to the beginning of this chapter, where Kami is confused by the fact that All For One has a face now, and Shishikura saying that he will get revenge for his father. His desire was to kill All For One, but he will not give in to hate. He will inherit his father's efforts as a jailer. Other Shiketsu students arrive and start helping the heroes on the ground to deal with the Twice clones. Pixie Bob says the focus has shifted to immobilizing Toga and defeating All For One, saying that all heroes with long-range quirks should go fight him. Suguchi contacts Hawks and thanks him for sending reinforcements, but Suguchi says that the Shiketsu students were already on their way before he even asked. The future of the war is tied to what will happen in Gunga, so they need to stop All For One as soon as possible. All For One says that they were cautious about the risk of him stealing the hero's quirks, so initially they only sent Endeavor and Hawks to fight him, but now they're desperate. All For One laughs and uses a quirk combo, growing wings, throwing a laser with black lightnings. The attack hits many heroes, including Kamui and Kinoko, and Hawks realizes that he's now using more quirks. Shishido says that they cannot be intimidated, and that the defending heroes need to contain these blows. They finally got All For One to stop and fight instead of running. So yeah, he actually is fighting for the first time here, at least since he's reverted back to his, quote unquote prime form. Just his non-potato fight state. Because before, he was just trying to go back to UA to get to Shigaraki, but now, he's stopping and he's fighting them and he's using some quirks, which we speculated about. And I totally forgot that we talked about this, because now that he's reverted to this state, in theory, he should be able to use quirks that he couldn't use before because of his damaged body or whatever. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Geology. Geology creates simple and effective skincare and hair care routines customized just for you with ingredients that are proven to work. Guys, I love Geology. If you go to their site, you can fill out a quick quiz and select all that apply to you. My main issue is under my eyes, so they sent these products specifically for me, and they also have them listed in order that you use them. Step 1 is the everyday face wash. Step 2 is the eye cream, which is the dark circle formula. Step 3 is the night cream, which I put on my face and neck, and then the following morning I can use the tone control morning cream, which I also put on my face and neck, and I love this stuff. It really wakes me up. So guys, go to geology.com. That's Geologie, because right now for a limited time you can get a crazy offer by using my code Zhoniin70 or scanning the QR code on the screen, and that'll give you an exclusive 70% off of Geology's award-winning skincare trial set. And on top of that, they're giving you an exclusive bonus offer of one of their brand new skin, hair, and body products of your choice when you add it to your trial. This is probably one of the best offers you'll ever see, so get it before it's gone. Thanks, guys. Or possibly even his quirk factor being reverted back to a previous state, allowing him to have quirks that he didn't have before, and that might be the case too, especially since the quirk factor is coming into play here. But this laser thing with the lightning, I think this is the quirk that he used against Nana, possibly, in that flashback that we saw in the All Might Rising OVA, or something like that. He really couldn't use this before, I guess because of his damaged state, but we should have seen Shigaraki using this, but maybe he doesn't have access to those because they're currently in this body. But yeah, this was always one of my favorite, if not my favorite quirk that All For One has. Because like I said, we only saw it back in that OVA, and it represented prime all for one power. And I was like, when is this going to come back? When are we going to see this again? And I thought we were going to get to see it with Shigaraki, but it turns out we're seeing it now because he's strong enough to be able to use the quirk again. But he's also using wings as well. And I wonder if this is the wings quirk from Bakugo's friend, from chapter 1. Because it turns out that Yujiko turned that kid into the winged Nomu that went after Deku in season 2 during the Stain arc. So maybe this is that. But then again, I'm sure there's, tons of wing quirks out there. But I'm really going to be interested to see the other quirks that All For One decides to use going forward into this arc. All For One asks why they think they have any chance without the only man who can match him. They don't know what he's capable of at his peak. Everyone there was born during All Might's time of peace, so they didn't live through the dark times when everyone feared him. As All For One asks about his Kingdom of Darkness, we see a panel of Banjo standing in front of several fallen buildings. While he's saying all this, we see 2 panels of Dabi flying after Endeavor, totally burned. So this is really interesting as well. All For One mentioning Prime All Might here pretty much. And I say that because we talked about this before a couple chapters back, or a few weeks ago I should say. Because we saw All Might leaving where Suguchi was, and he had this case, something. He was holding something, and I thought that there was a chance that, I don't know, it's just a Hail Mary, but All Might could be reverting back to a previous state similar to how All For One is. Maybe he somehow came into possession of the same kind of experimental Eri capsule or whatever that All For One had that Yujiko made from reverse engineering the quirk destroying bullet. Or, I don't know, Eri did something herself, or maybe they made something that Eri, put her quirk ability into, possibly, something that didn't hurt her, of course. I don't know, it just seems too good to be true, right? All Might reverting back to a previous state, becoming powerful again, and then fighting All For One as he just rewinds away into nothingness. I mean, it's just right here for Horikoshi. He's setting it up himself just to slam dunk it. And the scary thing is that there's just a big chance it might not happen, right? But I just hope that All For One mentioning it here means that that's more of a likelihood. The wind goes towards All For One, and Inasa says that he knows all of that because they learn about it in modern history class. He has decided to support Shoto and Endeavor, so his boiling blood will not give in to fear. All For One is impressed by his quirk and thinks about stealing it. All For One uses the wind in his favor to propel his attacks and hit some heroes, but they tell Inasa to continue. Inasa himself gets hit in the face, but he's not shaken and says that his quirk gets stronger on windy days. Instead of fearing the past, he wants to see the future. So that's really so that's a really exciting notion there. All For One taking Inasa's quirk. I mean, I don't necessarily want him to, I don't want Inasa to become quirkless, of course, but All For One having his quirk seems kind of cool at the same time, right? I mean, it would be a necessary sacrifice just to have this cool little factor. Although All For One, or I guess Shigaraki at this point, has that air cannon quirk that's amplified by other quirks. We see him use it a lot we've seen him use it a lot throughout the series. I think more recently he's used it, maybe at UA possibly, but I know he used it for sure against Star and Stripe. So it would be part of the course for All For One to use that. And also if he does, that could solve a lot of problems, because we saw that Inasa was lifting up all of those Twice clones. If All For One had that quirk, he can just transport everyone to one single battleground, and he'd just have Avengers Endgame. But I don't know if there's guarantees that he's going to take it just because it was mentioned. But, it's a possibility. Hawks remembers what he said to Endeavor at UA, and it says that it's not only One For All that connects people's hearts. Endeavor is also bringing hope to the younger ones, including Inasa and himself. All For One looks disgusted and says that he hates that light in Hawk's eyes. However, this makes no difference. The remaining heroes are all weak and can't even get close to him. It is then that the absolute darkness appears behind him with 2 huge eyes. All For One's expression changes to fear as he feels the presence of Tokuyami and Dark Shadow. He remembers the attack that destroyed his mask, and he has the same feeling. that he needs to dodge it right now. Tokoyami says that there are many types of darkness, and for him to stop bragging as if he knows them all. The small shadow that All for One produced has long since been illuminated by Class 1A. As he says this, we see a panel of baby Tokoyami sleeping next to Dark Shadow, and the panel of the 1A students receiving the umbrellas from the civilians. The rain clouds have darkened the environment, and the flames are already dying out after burning all the trees. In addition, Pixie Bob created an earth shelter for Tokoyami to unleash Dark Shadow's full power. All Might said that All for One wouldn't be able to steal Endeavor's quirk just by touching at his flames. So it must be the same with Dark Shadow. Hawks realizes that he's been preparing for this since the Shiketsu students arrived and tells him to attack with all he's got. Hawks says that if he has helped Tokoyami on his journey even just a little, then that makes him very grateful that he was born with those dirty wings. The chapter ends with Tokoyami hitting All for One with his Black Ankh Balder, boosted by Inasa's Wind. Alright, so this is incredible. So I guess this is like the full potential of Tokoyami and Dark Shadow, right? Everything has been coming to this because throughout the series we've been seeing hints of it. It's been teased at. It's like, wow, there's a lot of potential of Dark Shadow and Tokoyami. And it's like, when are we going to see what he's fully capable of? And I guess this is it. Because as it's being described here, Pixie Bob made like this huge roof over them, or this huge encasement, so that they have complete darkness, and Dark Shadow can just become as powerful as he needs to be to go against All for One here. And as it was also stated, All for One can't steal the Dark Shadow quirk from Tokoyami by touching Dark Shadow. Like, he has to make physical contact with Tokoyami himself. So Tokoyami can fight him at a distance with Dark Shadow coming from him. It's like the perfect matchup for All for One, essentially, at this point. So things are getting really interesting, and it's also boosted by Inasa's Wind, just leveling All for One. So this fight is actually coming around into the hero's favor at this point, but we can't completely count All for One out at this point. But we can't completely count All for One out at this point, because as we mentioned before, he is in a previous state, and he is way more powerful and has a lot more quirks that we're not aware of yet. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. If you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.